work this time, we'll
ditch it. I don't know.
We'll see how we go. We'll rearrange it if it doesn't work.
It's going to be quite exciting, isn't it? It could go at any stage.
Who knows? Who knows what's
happening? Oh, well.
What, I can't even remember what we were talking about.
Well, I just spoken about Garibaldi, where he came from, and I'd spoken about Barnes, and then I think we were just speaking about whether policemen ride bicycles.
We were,
yeah.
I absolutely. This is the first one I've read.
Right.
Of this series, so brand new to them.
Right.
But properly loving book 4. I really like the concept of it. I like the masked band idea. I thought that was great. Like your whole the ones with the celebrities, because that's not giving away a spoiler, is it, if we say who they are?
No. Shall I say a little bit about the masked band and what it is? Well, here it is. I've shown it earlier, the masked band, and as the title suggests, it's about a masked band. And the band in question is a group of celebrities, all of whom live in Barnes, this leafy area of southwest London. And they decide for a joke to form a group and to play a series of low-key concerts in disguise. And they play these concerts at a pub called the Bull's Head, which is a famous jazz venue in Barnes. And they've played a series of concerts under a range of names and in a range of disguises. But for the night of the concert that starts the action of the novel, they're playing under the name the OK Boomers. And they're all wearing the costumes, appropriate costumes and masks of 60s and 70s pop icons. So there's Bob Dylan, there's Mick Jagger, there's Paul McCartney, there's Debbie Harry, and there's David Bowie. And after the gig, these celebrities go off and have a party at the house of the lead singer. And the morning after the party, a man is found dead on the gravel underneath one of the windows. And it looks like murder. And D.I. Garibaldi is on the case. And he has a few questions to ask. And the first question he's asking is, why is the dead man wearing the band's Mick Jagger mask? And the second question he's asking soon after that is, why have all the other masks disappeared? And he's soon looking very closely at this group of celebrities, and it seems that they all seem to have something to hide. So that's pretty much the premise and summary of the book. Yeah.
I've got several questions about the band and the ideas in it. It must have been quite fun coming up with band names, because they've had several iterations, haven't they?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what they've been. They've been the Presidents, when they all dressed up as famous presidents, and one of them, unfortunately, was Trump. They've been the Players, where they were all sports stars. They've been the Comedians, when they were all famous comedians, and they've also been the Animals, where they actually are farmyard animals, rather than the 1960s band of that name. And so they had appropriate masks and costumes made for all those outings as well. But it's as it's after the OK Boomers gig that the man is found dead, and that's why the OK Boomers is on the cover, on the drum kit of the band there on the front. Yeah.
One of the other things I enjoyed throughout is kind of the other cultural references. So there's lots of like literary references. I mean, you've got a book where you've kind of referenced people like Oscar Wilde and Slipknot in the same book, which is quite...
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, well, so the literary references are because Garibaldi, he didn't go to university, but he is very well read, and he's read a lot of literature, and he's also quite fond of showing it off. I think he does irritate his colleagues by his habit of coming up with Oscar Wilde quotations in briefings. So that's why there's the Oscar Wilde reference. And the Slipknot reference, of course, was because he was researching masks. There's an interesting story about the genesis of this novel and where the idea came from, because when people ask, where did you get the idea for that novel from? I normally struggle a little bit and I come up with something that's quite vague. But I think in the case of this one, I think I can pin it down, because I think it has its origins in when I went to a concert, Shepherd's Bush Empire in London back in 2019, and it was to see Nick Lowe, the singer. I've seen Nick Lowe several times before, but I hadn't seen him perform with the band he was with that night, who were called Lost Straitjackets. And there was something very strange and distinctive about them. And what was distinctive was that they all wore masks. Now, I went to this concert with my wife, and I also discovered something else that night, because my wife chose to tell me that night something she'd been keeping from me ever since I've known her, which was that she had a lifelong fear of masks. So this made, as you can imagine, for a very interesting evening, but we got through. And I try not to think about masks too often after that. But when I chanced upon the TV program, The Masked Singer, I thought back to that Nick Lowe concert with Lost Straitjackets. And I had the idea. I thought, well, hang on, Masked Singer. Why not take the idea of The Masked Singer, which are individual celebrities singing in disguise, and extend it to a masked band, a band of celebrities playing in disguise. And so that's what I did. And what I've done in the novel is I've taken my wife's fear of masks and her experience at Lost Straitjackets concert, and I've kind of ascribed that fear to Garibaldi, who has a thing about masks himself, which makes it quite odd that he's working on this particular case. And Slipknot were part of his research into famous bands that have played in masks. And there are a lot of them. I mean, I think most of them are kind of in the heavy metal area, which isn't really my thing. But Slipknot are a very, very famous one. Other ones were Daft Punk, The Residents. Which other ones does he talk about? He talks about Pussy Riot, the Russian girls who played in coloured balaclavas. So there's a fair bit about masks in the novel as well, because he does a bit of research about how masks in culture, masks have been very significant, and he talks about Greek drama, for example, where they had loads of these things, and they fulfilled several functions. So yeah, there's a range of cultural references, largely driven by Garibaldi's character, where he likes to come up with quotations which he thinks might illuminate the case, but which are often really a case of him showing off. And also because of the nature of this particular novel, there are cultural references that arise from the things that these celebrities do. And also because of because of the kind of pop nature of the OK Boomers. So there's quite a few music references in it as well. Yeah.
I saw a band called Ghost once. They play in masks.
Oh, right. Okay.
Not all of them, but the lead singer has a mask.
Right. And what type of music are they?
They're heavy metal.
Heavy metal.
Heavy metal. They're not heavy metal in the sense like Slipknot are. Although sadly, right. I've also seen Slipknot play.
Oh, have you? Right. Okay. And how was that?
Entertaining. I've seen them a couple of times, both times at a music festival.
Right.
Kind of in between other things. I'm not a Slipknot fan.
So what? I've never seen them. So what are their masks like? Do they wear the same masks all the time?
Yeah, I think they do. There's been some conspiracy theories as well, isn't there, about some of the members, like maybe wearing a mask to hide that they're
keeping their identities hidden. Yeah. Some of these other mask bands, that's why they do it, to keep their identities hidden. And I suppose that's why these celebrities do it, because they don't want to be. And obviously, again, getting back to the book, that their identities are revealed after this murder, after this dead man's found there. So they are unmasked, and that leads to the investigation. But yeah, a lot of bands in masks, and a lot of bands where, I mean, Kiss didn't actually have masks, but they did have lots of face paint on covering them, etc. So yeah.
Donna said she never expected any of that from you. I think that might be a discussion about people like Slipknot.
Well, I don't look like the person who would know about Slipknot. Is that? Yeah. Oh well, there you go. I'm a bundle of surprises.
But maybe not. They are quite funny to see. gist if you ever get.
Yeah, no, I forgot to say that Lost Straitjackets, it's Mexican wrestling masks is what they were, specially made Mexican wrestling masks. And this is 2019 we saw them, and actually my wife has got over her fear to the extent that we did go and see them last year again when they played at the London Palladium. Yeah,
that's quite good. Yeah, there's a lot of references because there's like 2 characters in it who quite like old 60s music, don't they? They like.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I feel like that's more your.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's I mean,
things that they liked, but
yeah. I mean, one of the characters is a big fan of 60s and 70s music that comes in towards the end of the novel. But yeah, there are lots of references to it. So yeah, there's a fair bit of music in there, and the Bull's Head is a very famous venue in Barnes, mostly known for jazz. And of course, Garibaldi himself is a country music fan, and he does have a few words to say about jazz with his sergeant, I think, once.
Yeah, they have quite an interesting conversation about jazz, don't they?
That's right. Yeah,
because his partner likes it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, when they got together, it was an initial fondness for a particular country artist, Townes Van Zandt. As far as Garibaldi was concerned, sealed the deal. But we discover that his partner Rachel, her musical tastes are much broader than that, as in fact Garibaldi's are as well. And she's trying to introduce him to a few more things, but he hasn't quite got beyond Miles Davis and John Coltrane on the jazz front. But he's a music fan.
And is a kind of sensitive is not the right word, understanding description of teachers in it, from the fact that you have had a go at that yourself?
Oh, well, I've more than had a go. I did 33 years of it. So, there's well, in fact, it's quite interesting because the first 3 books all involved schools in some way or education in some way, because the first was about a group of graduates and one of them was a head teacher. The second was about private tutors. It was about a murder of a private tutor. So obviously that led you into the whole educational world. And the last one, Every Trick in the Book, was specifically about a school. The murder of a teacher who'd retired, who'd taken up crime writing, and he was found murdered in a manner identical to the way in which the victim in his own crime novel was murdered. And that very much focused on a school. And this actually is the first that doesn't focus on school or education in some way. But of course, it does have Rachel's job as a teacher, which is touched on. And she's having a bit of a wobble at one stage about whether it's what she wants to do.
I think that's the thing that lots of teachers do, isn't it? Have a wobble about whether it's...
Yeah, they spend most of their time wobbling, if I remember. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, especially on Monday mornings.
So did you teach English? Is that
I taught English, yeah. I when I graduated, I worked very briefly and very unsuccessfully in advertising. And then I left that and trained as a teacher, and then eventually ended up teaching in English in schools for 33 years. Yeah.
I've not done 33 years, but I teach.
Right. Okay.
Probably like 20 plus years.
Right. And the thing about teaching, I mean, I always wanted to write, but having taught English for so long kind of helps and hinders in all kinds of ways. I mean, it helps in that you're exposed to a lot of great writing, and you look at how books work and you look at novels closely. But it hinders because when you've been exposed to great works of literature, you're conscious as you're writing that, you know, what you've got on your page might not actually be quite as great as some of the stuff you've been looking at each day while you've been teaching. And then also the other thing about it is that as a teacher, you're used to looking at your students' creative writing or their writing in general and writing comments and making corrections and stuff like that. You're used to being at that end of it. And of course, as a writer, you're on the receiving end of that yourself, because editors and copy editors and proofreaders come back and they make comments. And so that there had to be a kind of adjustment there. But it did lead to a few things which I fed into Garibaldi's character, because as the novels go on, he tends to acquire a a habit for grammar pedantry. I think he only does it a couple of times in book 4, but it's certainly there. And he likes, not only does he like to show off his learning, he also likes to point out a few grammatical errors when they're made by his colleagues and people he's interviewing. He's trying to rein it in, though, which I think is why there's not so much of it in this book.
Excellent. I would be his nightmare when it came to grammar.
Right.
Very not good at things like that. There's a reason I'm not an English teacher.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, no. Also, I think that's just too hard a job. I don't think I'd want to do that. I teach science. It's much more easy.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I never fancied the idea of having to, supervise experiments and stuff. Seemed far too dangerous to me. All this, you don't have much equipment if you're an English teacher, apart from books and a few things on the board or the screen. So the idea of test tubes and chemicals and like that, no, not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you fall into your niche, don't you? The things.
Yeah. You find your level. You sink to your level. Yeah.
But yeah, that was I quite liked sort of those bits as well. It's because the investigation takes its time to unroll, doesn't it? But the thing that's quite entertaining about the book is that while it's unrolling, you're getting to know all of these people through it. Yeah. And you get a really deep understanding of all their motivations. So we start with a band and they're unmasked, and then that obviously becomes a big thing because they're celebrities. But then we start digging into their kind of reasons and their motivations, their lives and things, and it all gets you're kind of as interested in just their day-to-day lives. And
right. Yeah. I mean,
the investigation goes on, aren't you?
Yeah.
I guess that's what you intended to happen, but it just does work very well.
Oh, well. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, in all my books, I think I get inside kind of the narration is kind of omniscient. You get inside all characters' heads and you get other characters' points of view as well. So I think that's what I try to do. Try and you have a range of potential suspects, but you try and get inside their heads as well. Obviously not revealing too much because that's part of the game, but giving a sense of what they're like, or what their secrets might be, or what might possibly have led them to commit the crime.
Victoria says hello. It's a fabulous book. That's Victoria Howard.
Hello, Victoria. Hi.
She says, what a launch. Do you have any masks?
Do I have any masks? Well, funny you should say that. Would you like to see a mask? I don't want to frighten anybody of a nervous disposition. The answer
to that is yes.
Okay. Well, so one of them's wearing a Paul McCartney mask, which is kind of like that. Okay. Am I okay speaking like that? Now, it's Paul McCartney circa Sergeant Pepper, I think, which is why he's got the moustache. So one of them is in Paul McCartney. One of them's in Mick Jagger, which is I think this is late 60s. He's described quite specifically. Hi, I'm Mick. He's described quite specifically at the beginning which year it was, and I think his hair was probably slightly longer than this, but that's roundabout right for Mick Jagger. One of them is Debbie Harry. So there's Debbie. It's quite a striking mask. The thing about Debbie Harry, a lot of people think, well, she's not an OK boomer. She wasn't 60s, 70s, but actually Blondie did start in the late 70s. So I think she comes in under the umbrella. So it's the woman who is in disguise as Debbie Harry. And then one of them, this is the mask, isn't it? One of them is David Bowie. And this does feature in the novel. And Aladdin Sane, obviously. Very distinctive with the face makeup, and one of them is Bob Dylan. But I tried to get a Bob Dylan mask, but it's interesting because the only ones you can get, or the only ones I could find, were not of the right period Dylan. Because the one I wanted, or the one that's described in the book, is 65, 66. Dylan Going Electric. It's the complete unknown Dylan. It's the Timothy Chalamet one with the shades, the wiry hair, and this kind of amphetamine creative wildness. But they didn't have those. They had Dylan with this kind of wispy moustache and beard, which was probably around 69, 70 New Morning-ish. So I didn't get one of those. So anyway, there you go. As a very bad joke I made at my launch, which is I can't be the first person who's tried to but failed to get Bob Dylan. So there you go.
They had
but I
better
have masks at my
launch,
which is probably why Victoria's talking about them. So there we go.
Did you do a musical act in the launch as well then? Or you had
No, I stopped short of singing. I think the natives were frightened enough already by the masks, as my wife certainly was. So I spared them. My my whatever my rendition would have been. Yeah. So they escaped.
Donna says Mick Jagger isn't a nice looking man, your face is better.
Who's this? Sorry? Mick Donna. Jagger. Well, what can I say? What can I say? It's a matter of taste, but I suppose if you put us side by side, there's no doubt, is there really? Only one winner. Thank you.
She's being nice in general, as Donna, actually, because she said she was being complimentary about me a bit further up the stream. So she's just being nice to all of us.
That's nice. I mean, this is what the world needs, I think. Nice people. Yeah.
So what is next? Is Garibaldi going to come back in a 5th adventure?
Well, yes. I mean, I have. Well, when I say finished, I've finished a draft of a version of the 5th. So the hope is that he will continue with the same cast of returning characters, with developments in his personal life, and another case to solve, which will also be in Barnes. Making Barnes kind of nudging close to Midsummer in terms of the unlikely number of murders happening in that particular location. But there we go.
And she's got a good question for you based on the OK Boomers and maths band level.
Right.
She said it's the greatest music act you've never seen.
That would have been
music act you'd most like to see, but can't.
Oh, who's the character?
No, the greatest music act you'd most like to see, maybe, but haven't.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, living or past?
I guess if there's no object, so you can see.
I don't know. I'd like to have seen Joni Mitchell at the height of her powers. I saw Dylan once, but it was late. It was in the early 2000s. I have to give that some thought. That stumped me. I've seen the Stones. I never saw the Beatles. I might have liked to have done that. I didn't see Bowie. Perhaps I'd quite like to have seen one of those famous Bowie concerts, maybe at the Hammersmith Odeon one when he put Ziggy to rest. I'll come back to you on that one. I'll have to think about that. There's probably quite a long list actually of people that I wish I'd seen that I haven't, because I haven't seen that many. Yeah. So
what's your favorite musical act to see? I think everyone who likes to go and see live music probably has a favorite, kind of person they'd go and see numerous times. I do. I've got a band I've seen like 12 times. Oh, Victoria likes that Barnes is a new Midsummer. I think we've frozen Bernard again, but I don't know if I want to refresh the stream. We can try. Let's see if that works. Oh no, we've lost him again. Right, while we wait for Bernard to rejoin, Why doesn't everyone else tell us their favourite band to see? Oh, he's back.
Was that me? Was that you?
You froze again.
I'm not having a great night, am I?
It's all right. You're back now.
Okay, sorry about. I don't know what's going on this end, but there we go.
I asked everyone else to tell us what band they'd seen and really enjoyed the most. While we were waiting, Victoria said at Glastonbury one year, many years ago, she was on TV dancing to Paul McCartney in the rain.
Oh, right. Oh, lovely. Okay. Yeah. 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 I'd have liked to have seen him as well. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. But I was saying, yes, no, Nick Lowe, I saw him several times. And also very obscure. I mean, there's a Canadian singer called Ron Sexsmith, who I've probably seen 5 or 6 times as well. Very, very underrated and under the radar singer-songwriter, but widely admired and respected by a lot of people. So I think those are the ones I've probably seen the most. So in terms of, I haven't really got an all-time favourite. I saw Johnny Cash once. That was fantastic. I mean, Johnny Cash is referenced in some of the novels because Garibaldi's a fan. And I saw him in the late 80s, I think, when he was undergoing a bit of a revival with sort of younger people at the Kilburn National. That was a pretty good night. And going back to my youth, I did see I saw the Clash in their heyday back in the late 70s. So that was quite something. But I'm not very good at hierarchies of band. I'm not a kind of Nick Hornby top 5 bands guy. You know, I can't do that. Yeah.
I don't think I have a top 5 bands. I have a top band that I've seen more than 10 times.
Who's that then?
They're a very obscure obscure, I guess, if you don't know the genre, ska punk band called
called Real
Big Fish.
Real Big Fish, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are a particular favourite of mine and the husband's because you can't go and see them and not be happy.
Oh well,
they're like a joy-bringing experience.
Oh, there's a band that brings you joy, and there's someone called Donna who's always nice to you. So it's all shaping up well.
Yeah, well, Donna said she's seen Bon Jovi twice. Neither time she was bothered. Both times were great, and she wants to try and see Green Day again. And Victoria said, if you're going to write something that wasn't a crime novel, what genre would you write in?
That's a good question. It would probably be kind of comic fiction, really. I'm a big fan of. I mean, I like Nick Hornby's stuff and the way he developed.
Have we lost him again? See if that helps. Oh, we're not doing well here today, guys. I'm really sorry. I think it's me. I think I'm jinxing everything today. Personally, I started my day by smashing half of the plates in my house. So let's see if Dr. Bernard reappears. He is here.
I feel like Houdini here tonight. You know, I just keep disappearing. Sorry about this.
It's all right. I can see how you would go for a comedic fiction because I think there's hints of humour throughout the books that you write anyway.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the first novel I wrote and published, I self-published it eventually. It was called No Regrets, and it was a kind of comic novel, just based on the premise of a middle-aged bloke who'd fallen into a rut and everything was going wrong, and he undertook a bet that for a whole year he'd say yes to every invitation he received, regardless of what it was an invitation to do, he would say yes. So it was very much in that mold. So yeah, I think it would probably be comic fiction of some kind. Yeah. But in fact, I mean, the truth is, I don't think you write crime fiction. I don't think you write prose in a different way when you're writing crime fiction. I mean, the kind of the framework and the skeleton might be different, but the actual mechanics of writing. I mean, if you tend to kind of veer towards kind of social satire or things that are kind of like a wryly amused tone, it will come through whatever you're writing. I don't think just because you're writing a crime novel, you suspend some of your writing faculties. I think they're all there in play. It's just they're being serviced to a slightly different end. But I think you could take a chunk or a few paragraphs out of a crime novel and put them beside an apparently, literary novel or whatever, and in a blind test say which is which. I don't think people really would be able to tell the difference. So I mean, because crime fiction is often, it's a very, very broad church, and it doesn't necessarily equate to a particular type of writing. There are as many types and kinds of writing and as many prose styles in crime fiction as there are in every other kind of literature and writing.
You're correct. Donna says that you seem lovely. Obviously, have a hidden side. So if you rang your best friend and said you'd been arrested, what would they think you'd done? And we've got frozen Bernard again. It's going very badly for us today. Donna, we've had this conversation before. I stick with the fact that my best friend would have been the reason we got arrested. And Victoria says always have a lawyer on speed dial. That is also really good advice. And we've lost Bernard again, but hopefully we'll turn up. And we'll see what he has to say about Donna's question. So I'm interested in his answer. If he comes back. Or maybe he won't. So Victoria, no. That's my red pile. Mostly. It's got like comics and things on that I'm keeping. And some like Jane Austen adaptations there. And some signed books further up. Like I've got a signed book about the specials. And Donna says she thinks it'd be the same, to be fair. What Time to Freeze. I'm not sure we're going to get Bernard back. But we will see. Am I watching Miss Austen? No, because I don't have a TV license. Sorry. I've heard it and it's been advertised and it looks good, but I have not seen it.
It's me. I've got no idea what's going on here. I can't. Oh, hang on. Am I getting it? Hang on. I might be getting it back now. Hang on. Have you got me?
I do. We're back. It's very good. Hi.
Sorry, terribly sorry, but it's quite a new laptop. It's the laptop, not me.
It's fine. So, Connor, if you were arrested, are you still there?
Oh, here are you back? Are you there?
Yep, we're there.
Sorry, it's a nightmare.
So give us the answer then. If you were arrested and you rang your best friend, what would you likely to be arrested for?
Well, it clearly wouldn't be a cyber crime given my capability with computers. It would probably be I'll probably have a row with somebody. I'll probably lose my temper. I mean, I'm a very placid guy, but I am Irish Italian in terms of my blood mix, much like Garibaldi. So I'm very calm, but when it does go, it goes quite spectacularly. And so I can see myself getting in trouble for some kind of point of principle, or if somebody was behaving in a way that I found completely and utterly unacceptable, and they showed no sense of realizing that what they were doing was unacceptable, and they were unwilling to apologize for it. I can see myself possibly, and not necessarily under the influence of alcohol, but I can definitely see myself losing it with somebody and maybe getting in trouble for that. I wouldn't be violent, but I mean, I can just see myself perhaps going a bit too far. That's probably terrified everybody now, but there we go.
Tell us also what you've read recently and really enjoyed.
Okay, well, actually, I brought some things along actually because first of all, what I have done recently in terms of reading crime fiction is I've reread the whole of Inspector Morse in sequence, because I was giving a talk and I wanted to refer to him and how he'd influenced me, but I realised that my memories of the books were pretty vague, and that I hadn't read them since I read them just once when they came out. So I actually I finished about a couple of months ago rereading the whole of the Morse novels in sequence, which was a fascinating experience. I mean, just to look at a master doing what I'm trying to do, which is write a series and develop the detective and the characters. So that was interesting. But the more recent stuff that I've read, I recently read the latest Simon Mason, which are set in Oxford, with the two DIs who strangely have almost the same name. DI Ray Wilkins, just like the famous footballer, and DI, who's the other one? Was it Roy Wilkins? But they're set in Oxford, and a very different Oxford from Morse. But I've enjoyed all of those. Another one I read was it's by Andrew Cartmel, Death in Fine Condition. He wrote a series called The Vinyl Detective, which is all about it's back to music, isn't it? About somebody who was a vinyl collector, a record collector. And this is a new series, and the central character is a collector of books. And people might like this one. I mean, it's very light and it's very silly in many respects, but in a way that's its charm. But in this one, there's a very rare collection of crime books. There's a lot in it about crime fiction and about crime paperbacks. And at the heart of it is the theft of a very rare collection of crime fiction. So I enjoyed that. And also what I enjoyed about it is that, like my novels, it's set very locally. There's not one specific location, but it is around southwest London. And another one, which I'm sure a lot of people have read, but I do really enjoy them, is the Anthony Horowitz. I can't remember the name of the guy now, but Anthony Horowitz is in the books himself as the writer, and the detective is Daniel Mayfield Merriweather or something. But I've read all of those, like the Moonflower Murders, and I really enjoy those. And strangely enough, that also is quite local, which is set in a kind of a housing retired complex in Richmond. So those. I'm also working my way through Donna Leon. I haven't quite managed to do it in order, but her Brunetti series set in Venice. So that's pretty much what I've been reading. And I've been Well, I don't think I actually read them all when I was young. I seem to think I'd read all of the Sherlock Holmes novels because it's the kind of thing that you think you do when you're young, but I don't think I had. So I've actually been going back and reading the novels in sequence, and I'm on the third. But I mean, I don't read exclusively crime fiction. So there's been lots of other. Oh, yes, the Jonathan Coe. I was talking about Jonathan Coe earlier in terms of the kind of stuff I'd like to write. His last novel, Proof of My Innocence. My memory's going. Yeah, I think it's just fantastic. And there is a lot of stuff in that about crime fiction, in particular cozy crime fiction. And he does some really clever things with it because one of the characters is writing a cozy crime novel. And as I remember, he manages to write the parts of the novel in a very clever way, which shows that the writer is slightly flawed or incapable. But I have noticed recently, because the last Garibaldi novel, Every Trick in the Book, was a novel about a crime novel. I have noticed recently there's been a spate which actually have been kind of meta in that respect. Lots of crime fiction which is about crime fiction writers or about clues perhaps being found in a writer's crime novels. But so that's some of the stuff I've been reading. Yeah.
Good. It's always good to get a book recommendation. We've got about 5 minutes left.
Right.
Even though we've had like a comedy of errors of like technology today. Remind everyone what they're gonna. Well, before we remind everyone of that, have you got other book events coming up? Any other live?
Well, I've got on Sunday. I'm being interviewed on anyone who lives in London. Actually, you can get it outside London. BBC Radio London, Robert Elms. He's interviewing me on Sunday morning on the radio. He did it last year for my last book, and so he's asked me back. So that's coming up on Sunday. After that, not a lot at the moment, but I'm open to offers. Weddings, bar mitzvahs, that kind of thing. I'm around. So let's hope.
You go to any of the literary festivals?
I haven't I'm not booked into any at the moment. I did Bloody Scotland 3 when the first one came out, and I was invited to the one in Aberdeen, Granite Noir, but I wasn't able to make that. But I might be attending some. I haven't actually haven't worked it out yet.
Good. Well, keep us keep in touch and let us know if you are.
Right, will do. Yeah.
Our members like to go to quite a lot of them, so you might get a few visitors for signed books.
Oh yeah, I'll have to do that. Yeah. I did the Barnes Book Festival last year, which was really quite weird because my last novel, the victim is killed. He's a writer, and he's killed after his body is found the morning after he spoke at the Barnes Book Festival. And I was invited to speak at the Barnes Book Festival. So there was I, a writer of a crime novel in which the writer was killed after speaking at the Barnes Book Festival, speaking at the Barnes Book Festival. So that was quite strange. So many levels of irony, you couldn't get any more. So I did that.
The day after.
What's that, sorry?
Were you a bit worried the day after?
I was worried when I was giving the talk. I looked at everyone coming in thinking, well, is life going to imitate art here? And who might it be? And the other thing is that it was physically, the place I did the talk in was only a matter of yards away from where my victim's body was found, at the edge of Barnes Pond.
Donna says she'd be first in the queue for a signed book.
I'll be happy to do that. Yes, whenever I get the chance. I'd love to.
And then remind anyone who's watching what they're going to go away and buy.
Right. Okay. Well, the latest book is The Masked Band, and it's the 4th in the series of crime novels featuring D.I. Garibaldi, a country music-loving, non-driving, Irish-Italian QPR season ticket holder. They're all set in Barnes, southwest London, which is a very kind of leafy area of the capital, and it's available now. The Masked Band, published by Muswell Press, and available everywhere. And as I say, it's the 4th in the series, and touch wood, a 5th will be on its way next year.
And Muswell Press are another one of those like presses I think of as always putting out really good books.
Yeah, no, they're great. They've been absolute delight to work with from the beginning. You know, they're small, but they look after you and they care. And yeah, they've got a very interesting range of titles, and some good crime writers there. Yeah, so I'm pleased to be with them. Yeah.
And then it's all that's left for me to say is thanks. And thanks for being so patient through all our technical problems.
Well, I just hope that when I was cut off, I wasn't still audible, because I think, you know, you might have heard me being far less than patient on those occasions. Apologies for anything I've done that's wrong. I'll have a good talking to my laptop tomorrow. But I've no idea what went on. I'm so sorry. But it's been an absolute delight to be here. Thanks for asking me again. And I hope I'm able to do it again soon with no technical problems this time around. So thanks very much. And thanks everyone who's listened in and sent in questions. Thanks, Victoria.